Jeanette's ministry is ever evolving. She now offers the Women of Grace Leadership Institute, another opportunity for Catholic women to learn more about their femininity and vocation in life. And speaking of lifelong vocations, longtime Springfield resident Jim Trelease has spent several decades encouraging families to spend time reading, especially aloud. And with all of our children now back in the classroom, I recently sat down with this New York Times best-selling author of the Read Aloud Handbook. With all of the competition vying for children's time today, I started out by asking him, is it still possible to encourage reading in the home today?
Oh, it's possible. It's a lot more challenging with all of those distractions, but it is possible as long as a family thinks it's important. As Sister Patricia Joseph used to say to me when I was a junior across the street in the Bevan building, Mr. Trelease, we always find time for the things we think are important.
Mm-hmm. So, can you offer some specific suggestions to families today? Is it ever too late or too early to get your child to love reading?
Reading is more caught than taught. No one is born wanting to play basketball. Even Michael Jordan wasn't born wanting to play basketball. And no avid reader is born wanting to read. Someone outside has to plant the seed within you. You learn basketball by watching other people play basketball who invite you to play with them. And the love of reading is caught by watching someone else read and then having them invite you into that world by their reading to you. And then as they get older, it's harder to corral them. So when they're doing the dishes at night, and if you have a child who doesn't do the dishes, and that child is older than 9, and he doesn't do the dishes, you are dumber than the kid. That's not a good thing. So when the child is doing the dishes, you sit at the kitchen table and not watch television, not talk on the phone, not surf the internet. You read to that child. And it may only take 10 or 15 minutes. That's 10 or 15 minutes times 7 days a week. And you've planted a lot of words and a lot of seeds in that child's mind.
And what are some things that you can read to children? Does it have to be a novel, or can it? What else can we read to them?
Oh, you can certainly read poetry and Mother Goose when the children are little, and sometimes just look at the pictures. Just turn pages and look at the pictures and talk about the pictures. But as they get older and their time is more precious and fragmented, like when they're doing the dishes, it doesn't have to be a novel. It can be something you read in that morning's paper. It can be something about the traffic pattern that they just came up with and why there are more accidents for people turning left than turning right, which is what I read to my grandkids the other day. Or it could be just something from a book that you're reading to yourself. And if you don't read, well then how could you possibly pass the love of reading on to a child? You can't catch a cold from somebody who doesn't have a cold. If you don't have that love, you can't give it to your kid. So as they get older, don't worry about the length of things, just make sure there's something there.
Mm-hmm. Good advice. I know that you're also a proud graduate of Cathedral High School, and you have always had high praise for the Sisters of St. Joseph. How do they influence your life?
The Sisters of St. Joseph really taught me the difference between earning a living and a life worth living. And that's a subtle difference, but gradually over a 3-year period, because that's as long as I spent there, and then I came late as a sophomore, you'll learn the difference between the two. And they taught me that you keep doing something until you get it right. There were times when I thought I would choke Sister Marie Lourdes to death if she made me go through that Voice of Democracy speech one more time. But I did it and did it and did it and won. But she's the one who really won.
And for more tips on reading, you can look to the premiere edition of the Catholic Mirror, which features a story by Peggy Weber featuring Sister of St. Joseph Mary Lou Brennan with some wonderful tips on reading. You can also log on to iobserve.org and click on the Read Aloud button. Still to come on Reel to Reel,